So this is a question I received from Jim, and I'd like to reply to you in this video. So you write, Magdi, I hear you say that consciousness is complete freedom. To me, it sounds like a belief. How do you know that, and what is the significance? I do not feel free to do whatever I want. I feel limited. Follow the rules and respect the rules. Also, I experience consciousness when I am awake and not when I am sleeping. How come I do not know the freedom that you speak of in my sleep if consciousness is complete freedom? So Jim, there are sort of two questions here. So you don't experience freedom as a person. You don't experience freedom from the conditioned person that you have been conditioned to identify with. When you identify with the body mind, then you have identified with a limited form, and the freedom is not at that level. When I speak of consciousness being complete freedom, I am not talking about the world body mind. I am talking about what you truly are. I am talking about consciousness. So by consciousness, I am referring to the reality that perceives this perception. Whatever the perception is, it may be a dream, it may be an illusion. There is a reality to the perception. There is a reality that perceives this dream. Even in your night dream, the dreamer is real, although the dream characters that appear in your night dream are not real. There is a reality to whatever it is that knows the perception. So the freedom that I'm talking about is the freedom at that level, at the level of the knowingness, at the level of beingness, at the level of presence, at the level of the reality, and not at what comes and goes. At the level of what comes and goes, perceptions, sensations, thoughts, memories, bodily sensations, all of these are passing events. They're here for a moment, and then they're nowhere to be found again. The hunger that you experienced at breakfast or yesterday's dinner time is no longer to be encountered again. There is a new hunger that may arise now at lunchtime or dinner time. That is not what has occurred. So the freedom is at the consciousness level. And as long as you still perceive yourself as a man, as a son, as a father, as an employer, employee, whatever, as a body-mind form, as long as you perceive yourself as that, you will not experience the freedom that I'm speaking about. So the contemplation is for you to ask yourself, am I an experience in time and space, or am I that to which the experience that arises in time and space, that perceives that knows that. Am I what appears, or am I that knows the appearance, that knows what appears, that perceives what appears? What appears has no freedom. It has a beginning and an end, meaning it's an event in time and space. But that which knows the appearance is not in time and space, and therefore is the complete freedom that I'm talking about. And you will not feel this freedom, even though you may have an intellectual understanding of what I'm saying. There still is a journey of releasing the patterns, the positions that have inhabited your body, that keep you sensing a sort of feeling that you are limited to a body-mind. There is a post-understanding journey that has to do with the releasing, liberating, dissolving the remaining identifications of limitation. You say you experience consciousness when you're awake, and not when you're sleeping. How come you don't know the freedom of consciousness in your sleep? In the waking state, as well as in the dream state, you are experiencing phenomenal events. In the waking state, you're experiencing perceptions, sensations, and thoughts. And in the sleep state, in the dream state, you are experiencing also mind events, memories, images, perceptions, sensations. They are mind events. During the waking state, there is more of a continuity to these mind events. They're like closer to each other. They seem to be more, have a more consistency in time and space. While in the dream event, in the night dream, the mind events are more less dense, they're more spacious, they're more sort of dreamlike. They're thinner. But in both cases, in the waking state and the dream state, you are experiencing a world body mind. But what is it that experiences that? What is it that experiences a thought or a perception or a dream image, a mind image in the dream state? Is it not you as consciousness? So both in the waking state and in the dream state, you are experiencing consciousness, but you're making a mistake in believing that in the waking state, consciousness is dependent on the world body mind, and in the dream state, since the world body mind is sort of thinner, that consciousness is getting thinner. You're identifying consciousness with perceptions, with thoughts, with sensations. In other words, according to your question, in the deep sleep state, there is no consciousness. According to, I'm just sort of reading through, adding on to your question, you would be assuming that in the deep sleep state, there would be no consciousness, because after all, in the deep sleep state, there are no world perceptions, no body perceptions, no thoughts. That is not so. In the deep sleep state, consciousness is. Ask yourself the following question. How do you know that you slept, meaning how do you know that you went into deep sleep? You wake up in the morning, you say, wow, I slept really good tonight. Or last night I did not, I was tossing and turning, I did not. How do you know that you actually slept well? Something knows that there was deep sleep. Something must have been there. Of course, in the deep sleep state, there was no world, there was no perceptions, there was no bodily sensations. But there was something that knew the deep sleep state. And that is consciousness. So consciousness is independent of the world, body, mind. The world, body, mind depends on consciousness, but it is not the other way around. Also, in your waking state, between every thought, there is a gap between the thought that I love my mother and the thought I love New York City. There is a gap, because if there was no gap between those two thoughts, they would be one thought. Given that there are two thoughts, there must be a gap between thought A and thought B, which means there is a no thought, there is a space of no thought between thoughts. The same thing, there is a space of no sensations between sensation A and sensation B. There is a space, otherwise there would be one sensation. And that space is a space of presence, of consciousness. That's sort of a little bit of a metaphor to encourage you to be open to the possibility that consciousness is not limited, is not in the object, or is not limited to a thought, limited to a sensation. Now, when you look at any thought, for example, take thought A, and you look really closely at it, you get close to the thought, you find that the closer you get to the thought, the less of it there is. Or if you take an electronic microscope and you look at a tree, or you look at any object with the electronic microscope, the closer you get to the object, the more space you find there is in the object. There are electrons and atoms that are so far apart from each other, and there is infinite space between them. So what I'm saying is that even when you approach a thought, or you approach a sensation, or you approach a perception, you will find that you're entering into space, into this nothingness, which is the vastness of consciousness. So consciousness is not just limited to the space between thoughts or between events. It actually permeates the thoughts, permeates the events, permeates the sensations. When you are looking at a certain perception, don't you notice that awareness permeates the entire perception? Not any part of your perception has more awareness or less awareness in it. It permeates the entire space. Now, there might be some objects in the space, in the perception, that have a brighter color, or a brighter form, or a louder sound. But the fact that some have a louder sound and others have a softer, more pastel type of effect, it only relates to their phenomenal aspect, does not relate to consciousness, to awareness that is equally aware of both the bright and the lesser, the softer. So yes, you must follow rules, and you respect them in your